that would have been met with disbelief in the not-so-distant past. But in December of 2019, in the bustling city of Wuhan, China, the unimaginable started to take shape. Wuhan, a city vibrant with life and commerce, was home to a bustling wet market, a place teeming with people and live animals. It was in this dense mesh of interaction and activity that the first signs of a mysterious illness began to surface. Symptoms akin to a severe pneumonia started plaguing the inhabitants, causing cough, fever, and shortness of breath. The medical community at first was left scratching their heads, unable to identify the cause. In the blink of an eye, the situation escalated. The mysterious illness was not just an isolated case, it was spreading and spreading fast. Hospitals were soon overwhelmed with patients. The city's medical infrastructure strained under the sudden onslaught. Fear and confusion were the order of the day as the city's inhabitants grappled with the unfolding crisis. As the situation spiraled out of control, the authorities took drastic measures. Wuhan was locked down. Travel in and out of the city was restricted in an effort to contain the outbreak. But the virus, stealthy and relentless, had already begun its silent march beyond the city borders. Meanwhile, scientists were racing against time, trying to identify this invisible enemy. Their efforts would eventually lead to the identification of a new adversary, a novel coronavirus, which was later named COVID-19. But at this juncture, all that was known was that a virus was on the loose, and it was like nothing the world had seen before. In mere weeks, the virus had taken hold in Wuhan. Unbeknownst to the world, a global crisis was brewing. A crisis that would challenge our way of life, our resilience, and our humanity. This was just the beginning of the outbreak. The world was about to witness a pandemic, the likes of which it hadn't seen in a century. From the crowded markets of Wuhan, the virus, now known as COVID-19, began its relentless march across the globe. It moved stealthily, silently, city by city, country by country, continent by continent. Unseen, undetected, it spread like wildfire. As the virus made its way around the world, it left a trail of destruction in its wake. It wasn't just the loss of life, heart-wrenching as it was, or the pressure on healthcare systems stretched to their breaking points. No, the impact of this virus was much broader, much deeper. The world as we knew it came to a standstill. Streets once bustling with life were now eerily quiet. Schools were empty, parks were abandoned, and the hum of daily life was replaced with an unsettling silence. The world was on pause, waiting, hoping, praying. In the face of this unprecedented threat, governments around the world took drastic action. Borders were closed, travel was restricted, and lockdowns were imposed. The aim was to slow the spread of the virus, to flatten the curve, to buy time. But the economic cost of these measures was immense. Businesses, large and small, were forced to close their doors. Millions of people found themselves out of work, uncertain of what the future held. The global economy was in freefall, with economists warning of a recession deeper and more severe than anything we'd experienced in living memory. Society too felt the impact. The virus didn't just take lives, it stole experiences, moments, connections. Weddings were postponed, graduations were canceled, and birthdays were celebrated in isolation. The virus in many ways robbed us of our humanity. Yet amidst the fear and uncertainty, there were glimmers of hope. Communities came together, neighbors helped neighbors, and the human spirit shone brightly in the face of adversity. Within months, the world had changed. Lives were lost, economies shattered, and societies closed off. But as we'll see, this was just the beginning of our story. While the world hunkered down, scientists were racing against time. In laboratories across the globe, teams of virologists, epidemiologists, and geneticists were working around the clock. Their mission? To identify and understand this novel virus that had brought the world to its knees. In the initial days, the task was daunting. The virus was like nothing they had encountered before. It was elusive, mutating rapidly, making it difficult to pin down. But these were some of the best minds in the world. They were determined, fueled by an unwavering commitment to humanity. As the weeks turned into months, breakthroughs began to emerge. The virus was identified as a new strain of coronavirus, SARS-CoV-2, the causative agent of COVID-19. This discovery was a significant first step, but there was still a mountain to climb. The next challenge was to develop a vaccine. Developing a vaccine is no small feat. It requires a deep understanding of the virus, rigorous testing, and regulatory approvals. It's a process that typically takes years, sometimes even decades. But time was a luxury the world couldn't afford. The race was on. Scientists began employing innovative techniques like mRNA technology, which had never before been used in an approved vaccine. They collaborated across borders, sharing their findings and pooling their resources. It was a collective effort, a true testament to the power of global cooperation. Meanwhile, clinical trials were underway with volunteers stepping forward to participate. Their bravery was instrumental in the fight against the virus. They were the unsung heroes, the ones who took the first leap of faith, paving the way for the rest of us. And then the breakthrough everyone had been waiting for. A vaccine was developed, tested, and approved for emergency use. It was a triumph of science and human resilience, a beacon of hope in a time of darkness. Against all odds, humanity had a fighting chance. A vaccine was in sight. The battle was far from over, but for the first time in a long while, the world could breathe a sigh of relief. The fight against the China virus was gaining ground, and with it, the promise of a brighter tomorrow. With the arrival of the vaccine, a glimmer of hope emerged. The world breathed a collective sigh of relief as scientists, after tireless months of relentless research, finally developed a defense against the unseen enemy, COVID-19. It was a triumph of human ingenuity, a testament to the indomitable spirit of our species. Vaccination campaigns kicked off across the globe, an unprecedented logistical challenge undertaken with an urgency the world had rarely seen before. Arm by arm, dose by dose, the vaccines began to turn the tide against the virus. The invisible enemy that had brought the world to its knees was finally meeting its match. As the vaccines rolled out, societies began to cautiously reopen. It was a gradual process. Each step forward weighed against the risk of a potential setback. But with each passing day, with each successful vaccination, the grip of the pandemic began to loosen. Schools reopened their doors, the sound of children's laughter filling the hallways once again. Businesses, many of which had been shuttered for months, slowly began to dust off their counters and welcome back customers. The world was waking up from a long and arduous slumber. But it wasn't just about reopening doors and resuming business. This was a period of resilience, a time when the human spirit shone brightly amidst the darkness. People adapted, evolved, and found ways to thrive in the face of adversity. Communities came together, supporting each other through the hardships and celebrating each triumph, no matter how small. This was also a time of reflection, a period to consider the lessons learned during the pandemic. It was a moment to appreciate the things we often took for granted: the simple joy of a shared meal, the comfort of a warm hug, the beauty of a crowded street buzzing with life. And so, as the world began to heal, as we began to navigate our way towards the post-pandemic era, we carried with us not just the scars of a global crisis, but also the resilience, the hope, and the lessons it had taught us. Slowly but surely, life started to regain some semblance of normalcy. As we look back, what have we learned from this global crisis? One of the most significant takeaways is the indispensable role of robust public health systems. The pandemic underscored that these systems are not just about healthcare, but they form the very backbone of a resilient society. They are our first line of defense against health emergencies, and their strength and efficiency can mean the difference between containment and catastrophe. We've also learned the immense value of scientific research. It was the relentless pursuit of knowledge by scientists and researchers worldwide that led to the identification of the virus and the swift development of vaccines. This feat, accomplished in record time, has highlighted the importance of continuous investment in scientific research and development. But perhaps the most poignant lesson of all is the necessity of global cooperation. The virus did not respect borders or nationalities. It affected everyone, everywhere, reminding us that in an interconnected world, a threat to one is a threat to all. It emphasized that in the face of global challenges, we must set aside differences and work together for the common good. We've also seen the need for preparedness. The pandemic was a wake-up call, highlighting our vulnerabilities and the need for better planning and readiness for future health emergencies. It's crucial that we take these lessons to heart and act on them. We must bolster our public health systems, invest in science and technology, and foster international cooperation to be better prepared for whatever comes next. The China virus was not just a crisis, it was a test of our collective resilience. It brought unprecedented challenges but also showed us what we're capable of when we come together. It revealed our strength, our adaptability, and our capacity for innovation and resilience. The China virus was a harsh reminder of our vulnerabilities, but it also showed us our strength and resilience. It's a story that will resonate for generations to come.